Welcome back. It's time to move on to North America. We're back on the PlayStation 4, and I'm back, but this time with Anatoly. And we've got a pretty interesting one here for you. It's a team that you should be pretty excited about, I think. Shrimp Gang, a lot of known names across PS4, across Xbox, up against Benedict's Cavalry, which is, or Cavalry, which I already messed up the name because that's how, I wasn't sure how it was. But an interesting squad full of players that have a lot to prove, I think.
I mean, when you have a house plant, you got to water it, make sure it's taken care of, got plenty of sunlight, water, you know, photosynthesize, and make sure that it's just taken care of. And I think that's going to be the main goal because houseplant is the one taking care of the rest of his teammates being the support of that team.
That's right. And he's going to go up against mattkoiz, who is one of the more storied players in all of the SCL. He's been playing since the very, very beginning, now on the PS4 side of things, after trying his hand at the Xbox, of course, the last few years. Joining up with xCovi and TheWeeznd, who went to the World Championships last year as in control. But now they've got Jumpah and Nikwit on this squad, a couple other players who have seen some success on Xbox.
That's right, some big names. Jumpah specifically, the jungle role there, winning that one season at Console Worlds, is going to provide that experience necessary, I think, to elevate this team to good success. And considering how stacked up North America is on the console side, I think that's going to be an important factor, having your jungler be the dictator.
Absolutely. I think that Jumpah is going to be one to watch without a doubt. I mean, he's got a World's MVP under his belt. xCovi, also a very storied player on the Xbox side and on PS4 now in their first split. Yeah. He ended up doing very well within Control alongside TheWeeznd. So if you're a team like Benedict's Cavalry, what are you looking at to try and go with? Because you don't have as much experience. You know, these are players you should probably know. What are some of the things that you're leaning on?
What I would do, if it was a best of one, I would try to find a cheese strategy and make it work once. But unfortunately for them, it's a best of three. So even if it works once, it probably isn't going to work twice. So try to be more consistent about it. Do your research, do your homework, see what the idea is for Shrimp Gang, see what works for them, and then try to spin that on its head. And then if you have your own strategies for compositions, aggression in the dueling has never been a bad thing.
Yeah, especially with how the meta is playing out right now. Aggression in that duo side has definitely been very important. If you just missed the last set, the team that picked Geb in the duo lane was losing every game because they're just getting their purple buff invaded. So certainly an option. We'll see what they do as we get ready to head into picks and bans over here in the PS4 side of NA. I do think that this is one of those sets, though, where, as you mentioned, one of the disadvantages of your Shrimp Gang is that everyone should know what you play, what you're comfortable with, whereas Benedict's Cavalry, these are newer players, so you don't have that level of familiarity.
I agree. It's a catch-22 because even though you could kind of predict the ideas for Shrimp Gangs, you still have to beat them mechanically at the end of the day. And knowing some of these players having more star power than the likes of Benedict's Cavalry, that could be a factor to consider, especially when you're doing picks and bans. You could go for almost anything that you want, I think, out of Shrimp Gang.
Well, Odin is the first ban, interestingly enough, by Shrimp Gang, something that you see move in and out of the meta, but not really thought of as super strong right now. Still worthy of a throwaway ban in the first spot, and that kind of forces Benedict's Cavalry to go with King Arthur and Freya as their bans, two of the more thought of gods as the strongest in the game right now. But Hera still open, not going to be the call. It's going to be xCovi's Janus
I like it
overall.
I like it a lot. Now, the Odin ban leads me to believe that Shrimp Gang is going for gods that can't escape the Odin cage or gods that are not going to go for jumps necessarily. Janus being picked up is surprising because if you're going to first pick Janus, you probably don't care about the Odin necessarily.
That's true. And you can move people out of the Odin cage. It's kind of different. But Susano, thought of as one of the only counter picks to Janus in the entire game, immediately picked up on the other side alongside the Achilles. So these are two gods that can do quite a bit in the team fighting stage, but Susano in particular needs a little bit of time to get ramped up.
That's true. I think he has a great level 1 clear, depending also who the mid-mage is going to be for assistance. Now, you're going to want to fight fire with fire in that soul lane. Achilles very aggressive, but Bellona aggressive in her own right. And when you're dealing with the new mechanic in Season 6 with the Totem of Q, fighting over that is an important factor. I think Bellona is going to have the edge for clearing purposes and start getting that 125 gold for her teammates.
Certainly could be the case as Geb, that looks like Shrimp Gang not too worried about lack of pressure in that duo lane. mattkoiz, a longtime fan of playing this god, but this time we'll see how it pays off for him as Hera, the selection for Benedict's Cavalry, a pick that it just seems to be getting more and more popular, which shouldn't be a surprise. Hera, one of the strongest gods.
A huge AoE knockup. Who would have thought that this god wouldn't be popular in the Smite meta? And very difficult to lock down, even without a gap-closing ability. Having the shield, which also provides you 15% movement speed, is going to get you out of sticky situations.
Kumakarna banned away by Shrimp Gang, a pick that certainly brings a lot of CC, so don't want to overload mattkoiz with who he needs to Geb shield, as Bakasura and Gibalanke take it off the board by Benedict's Cavalry, looking for some of those hyper carries towards the later stages of the game. Bakasura can certainly do that, though he can also take over the early stages whenever he wants. Kernos, the other ban now for Shrimp Gang. Kern, definitely one of those gods that we've seen quite a bit of in the early stages of Season 6.
Especially with the changes to Runeforge Hammer, having the Winter Stance season to slow down your basic attacks. It just amplifies that 15% extra damage. And the idea behind the Bakasura ban, like you were talking about, to limit some of the hyper carry potential, I think with Pele still open, that could be the case where Shrimp Gang go for.
Muzen Cobb, the B, showing up here in this game for what I imagine will be Weezy. This is a pick that we haven't seen a whole lot of, but it can be really, really strong against Susano in particular, where that Stinger interrupts a lot of what he wants to do.
That is true, and when you have a Geb support, you need that pushing power in the duo lane, and AMC is hard to really battle the Hive that he's going to throw out there.
Also with Runeforge, she can be pretty good. That's slow applied by Honey, then you swarm them. You can really do it quite a bit, and 55 power, he scales pretty well. I think this is a pretty strong pick that is kind of flying under the radar right now. We'll see if it works out, though, for Weezy as Medusa, the final selection. A tried and true combo, Athena taunt into Medusa Petrify, but is this going to lack pressure in the duo lane up against the AMC?
We're about to find out, because I think that Athena can out-clear the Geb, so it's going to come down to how the supports position themselves around the wave.
We'll have to wait and see. Game 1 coming up, Shrimp Gang versus Benedict's Cavalry. Let's send it to Game 1.
It absolutely is time for Game 1. Nice job there, Aggro and Toli, as we move into the North American side of things and see how they're going to shake over on that end. Benedict's Cavalry going up against Shrimp Gang. What a name, as you should recognize some of these names, certainly, from other times on the North American side.
Shrimp Gang, just easing on in to things.
You like Shrimp Gang? Yeah.
I think that for the players available on Shrimp Gang, I gotta say, I am a fan of the honesty from these guys. I mean, Jumpah, not a super tall guy. IRL, I'm sorry, Jumpah, you're going to be the first one on the chop-in block. Kobe and Koiz, same boat. So, a little bit unfortunate for the gentleman over here.
I mean, Shitako's coming in at him right out the gate, huh? We just started. Letting them know a little bit, I guess, is going to be the cause. We do have a brief pause.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well be, the leader of the Shrimp Gang at this rate. Come on.
We're going to get everything sorted out for our players and get them into the action right away. But you saw some interesting picks, right? We saw the Muzen comp, who we don't get to see as much of lately. But I know Muzen comp is one that, we've heard some rumblings in that it can be very strong, right? Doesn't have too hard of a time building things like Runeforge, can get some power there. Where do you think AMC is at right now?
With Double Hammer being such a heavy priority right now amongst a few of the 100 candidates, it's not really that surprising to see AMC kind of work his way back into the competition. I think my main concern for AMC has always been whether or not jungle would have still too much of an impact and influence over the dual lane to prevent an Muzen Cobb from being able to freely farm and really build up that survivability first and foremost from the Runeforge and the Blackthorn. And I think that right now, though, alongside of the Geb, I think it's kind of just a general understanding that you can't really afford to be too aggressive into the AMC. You don't really want to bait your own duo lane into overextending and then running the risk of an early gank from the enemy team's mid laner.
Wow, that was a good secure coming out from Shrimp Gang as we follow along with their duo lane. And you're right, it can be sometimes iffy on if the Muzen Cup can work, but I got my eyes on this Hera as well, Taco, because she went the Shoes of Focus, the cooldown boots rush right away, so there's no pots, there's nothing there by way of sustain to try and keep her in lane.
I think it's safe to call this the original Spartan play
right.
at this point. I believe that a lot of the console guys were crediting Spartan for that one, although for slightly different reasons.
Sure.
Man was a little bit late to scrim times, and so, sometimes you just got to rush those boots, but it's starting to grow on me. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely can see some of the benefits of having all that movement right off the bat.
Yeah, it's not bad. The cooldown's nice too, and if you're planning on backing somewhat early, you can pick those up on that first back. But what it looks like here is that Sternhawk has done a good job being patient with the way that he's using these abilities, making sure that it's just on clearing the wave. He's been able to keep very much even so far with his opponent. It looks like the Janus is a little bit out ahead XP-wise, but this could be a promise. Daniel loops around, and I don't know where mattkoiz can go. An unfortunate spill. First blood for Mystic Salmon.
That's xCovi, though, making the right call there as the support player, and that's sacrificing himself so this AMC can continue to hopefully thrive just a little bit. Even though Muzen might have lost his support for the first blood, yes, that's unfortunate, of course. However, hold that thought, a little bit danger here, but slight maneuvering to the right side, and he'll be able to avoid every single one of those Viper shots from Mystic Salmon. And to continue that thought, it's just Muzen doesn't want to die early on, because the second an AMC gets put behind, it can be a little bit difficult to dig your way out of that hole.
Yeah, and as long as that's the only spill mattkoiz takes, it won't be too bad. That is a little bit of solo farm for WeezNd as well, that Mystic Salmon and Houseplant are actually going to be splitting. So sometimes it doesn't hurt too bad as long as it's just one spill. It'll be a problem, though, if koiz and WeezNd end up losing buffs or fall again.
Something that's always been kind of funny to me about Season 6 is, as a support role, it feels like that is one of the few roles right now in Smite where you can just feed your brains out relentlessly and still be viable in a team fight. Whereas any other role, if you take a first blood, it feels like you just get too far set behind that you never really manage to get onto an even playing field again. But xCovi will still have the Geb Shield, he'll still hit Cataclysm at level 5. Rollout's still viable for escape, just like Jumpah wishes he had an escape right now, but he's only a level 4 Daji.
And gets hit by the polymorph as well, but just barely gets out. But Argus is still swinging under the tower, but just not strong enough. I love that xCovi turned his attention over and dropped the Argus as well to make sure that Jumpah made it back out. But wow, that was close in the middle lane. A little bit under duress after that Argus getting dropped down. It's big damage from Hera, man.
I like that from xCovi, though. Did everything that he possibly could have there, created enough space that way Jumpah would have a target to latch onto with the Daji for an escape. And not only that, but the threshold. Movement speed is so important when you're on the run from that Argus.
It absolutely is. As we follow back along with mattkoiz, I wanted to mention earlier that he's gone with the Blink as his first relic choice. So not only did he get ganked early on, but he doesn't really have much way to help him in a defensive situation if he is under some duress. This is something that makes me think that once he has Cataclysm, he wants to be kind of aggressive. Maybe rotating a little bit more, Taka?
If he wasn't with the AMC, I think that I would probably be upset seeing a Geb with the first relic of Blink. That seems to be something that you should probably hold on to until that level 12 slot to really decide whether you can even afford to be that aggressive.
Sure.
Or not. But here, I think it works really well with the Muzen Cobb, because the TheWeeznd is going to rely on that knock-up setup, or even the Cataclysm setup, I think, if they really want to punish this Medusa. There's so much interrupt that xCovi can now provide, and I think that it is a little bit threatening when you factor in some of the follow-up potential that Shrimp Gang has with the rest of their draft.
They do have quite a bit of it, and if Jumpah is able to force some relics, or you can use Blink like that to get past the initiation coming out from Houseplant, that leads right into the Shockwave and the Cataclysm, but still it's Shrimp Gang who appear to be on the back foot. Only really Daniel who's low, and he's got Defender of Olympus to keep him topped off. But do they still want this red buff? Mystical Salmon push forward, so is Houseplant. Argus is now low, and it looks like Benedict's Cavalry will have to give up the chase for now.
But Benedict's already missed out. xCovi was able to secure his red buff, and in the end, that's all Shrimp Gang were truly after. xCovi's Blink past the Athena dash taunt was so strong there because he caused that fake threat, I think, to Benedict's Cavalry. We saw how low that damage output was from Shrimp Gang. The damage, the numbers are not going to be there for a while, I think, until like the mid-game. Okay, just kidding. Unless you're xCovi and you got that red buff. He did just pick up the red buff.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the full combo, right? That was
Yes.
the portal right into the clap from the unstable vortex. That's exactly Janus's max damage output, so it's just bad timing. I get what you're saying, right? Even if mattkoiz jumps in between them and gets a Cataclysm right now, it's not a ton of damage usually right this second.
He just wanted to shift their attention. That's
Right.
all he was looking for, is separation from Benedict's. That way there would be a little bit more chaos involved surrounding that red buff, allowing Shrimp Gang their window of opportunity to confirm it. And that's exactly what xCovi was able to accomplish. A little bit of poke from Jumpah onto the buff, and then next thing you know, Unstable Vortex to confirm it.
Well, now we take a look at our solo laners, Taco, and we haven't seen as much Achilles, I feel like, lately, but here he is picked over in the solo lane, not for some of the early lane aggression that you can see from the jungle or the support either. This is Achilles where they're putting him in the oven a bit and waiting till he can rotate over later on.
And it feels a little bit risky.
Yeah.
sometimes to have an Achilles because you want that damage, but you know that it's not going to be there until maybe 15 minutes or so. So that really just relies on, I think, Nickwood to keep things under control in this solo lane. But if there's anybody to depend on there, I definitely think that somebody as experienced as Nickwood would be someone to keep this Achilles under rein. And more importantly, though, I'm still bringing things back to that initial red buff invade fail attempt. Houseplant, though, under duress, but doesn't seem like anybody else from Shrinkgang is all that interested in going in.
It doesn't. It looks like they wanted to hold back until these chains came out. Now they might be looking to pull. Typhoon's not a bad idea to keep them from following up, but Unstable Vortex still rips through and does quite a good bit of damage. But listen, Mystic Salmon making the wraparound, it's not going to matter. The portal stops him, and Jumpah's able to find a kill, but he can't find his way back out. Sternhawk punishes him through space and time, clips through Unstable Vortex too, but it's just not enough to complete the kills, but Nickwood solves that. But they lock him down in the tower. That's perfect for Mystic Salmon. Still not enough for the kill.
And Koiz has the Geb shield up any second now, just in case. So he's going to make sure to roll out with Nickwood. That ward, even though it might show the Bellona is right around the corner, it does not really seem to matter all that much. And Benedict's Cavalry, just like that red buff fail attempt, their attention is shifted from the original focus point, and Shrimpgang are able to work through the back line because of it. I love what Jumpah did there, sieging his opportunity to go onto the back line, and Benedict's, by the time they even realized anything was wrong, it was already too late.
Absolutely was, and they're able to net a little bit of a trade there in the middle lane. Still Shrimpgang, the one that's coming out a bit better with about 1,000 gold in their favor, at least so far. Experience, though, virtually deadlocked, only about 100 or so, and that is wave to wave, so it's not even a real difference between those two. This game is so even at this point. We were highlighting Sternhawk early on, Taco, and talking about those cooldown boots. Well, now he's going right into the Book of Thoth as well, so even still a little bit longer before we're really going to be seeing the max from this Hera. But we already saw some damage. It's still potent, but a little bit more still to go.
As far as damage output is concerned, though, these mid laners are pretty evenly matched right now. I think the only real advantage would be to XCovi for his cooldowns, running about 30% right now between the Evolved Mage's Blessing, Spear of Deso, and the CDR boots. So he's just looking to spam as often as possible, I think, to really just be a nuisance in the face of Benedict's Cavalry. There's nothing more frustrating, I think, than trying to lock down a Janus when they're prioritizing cooldown reduction.
It's going to be very difficult to lock down XCovi at this point. He's got beads to try and stop them. There is some lockdown here for them. They've got the Susano, who is good at chasing out Januses because they can sometimes follow them even through the portal with the jet stream. They've got the Athena taunt to try and lock him down once he's there. But with all that extra cooldown, he still might have enough. In fact, it's put to the test here in the middle lane. Just a taunt, though, so XCovi not under too much duress.
Could be worse. Just wait until Houseplant's looking for those taunts into the connection of the polymorph, but right now it's all about Nickwood just trying to stay alive here. Eagles rally underneath his tower, but they're not willing to give up the chase just yet. Shrimpgang not going to be able to bring the troops in time to save the life of Nickwood.
It is 2 ultimates committed, but Jumpah wants to try and make them pay for it. He does have XCovi here with some follow-up damage through space and time already expended to get them here in time. An Unstable Vortex, just not enough damage on zone. Maybe the portal, no, it's actually Jumpah who falls to Daniel, and instead, now Houseplant might want to try and keep things going onto XCovi. Beads are still there. Argus not going to get the knockup. In fact, he almost turns it back around to Daniel Perez, but he's not going to be able to make his way back out of here. That's 3 members that fall, starting with Nickwood. A great fight for Benedict's Cavalry.
As soon as Nickwood died, I think that was the moment that Shrimpgang needed to just let that one go and kind of just cut their losses for what they were, because now things are significantly worse. They didn't just lose Nickwood in the process. They gave Shaolin yet another freebie assist. Jumpah going in a little bit too deep there on that tower, taking the shot for it, and that resulted in him getting picked off. Now Daniel Perez as well able to establish a little bit more of a firm lead over this Danji in terms of experience, and that's just going to help him further build on this Susano and the Hera. I mean, XCovi, I totally understand what you were looking for with that Unstable Vortex, but by then, it was just too little too late. Yeah. From my perspective, I think XCovi should have tried to get out immediately after losing Jumpah even. Yeah,
they definitely didn't have the damage output. And you can kind of see Jumpah hesitating a little bit once he went up into the Pal-Out. It's like, yeah, you could pull him in, but pull them into what? As we have another battle near mid-Heartbeats. Those are already grabbed. Now Houseplant just locked down by the Cataclysm, and Jumpah with those horrible burns going to take him down. A nice kill for the jungler for Shrimpgang. But is there anything to do on the back end? They can't exactly just go pull Gold Fury, so they'll fall back.
That pick, though, was very worthwhile for Shrimp Gang because it's going to divert some of the attention from solo lane. I think when you just experience 3 different kills there, Daniel Perez, though, won't even get a chance to get pulled in by the Powwow. He's just going to explode for the unstable vortex damage in mid lane. And this is the map control and the map pressure being reestablished now by Shrimp Gang after everything that just took place in solo.
That was nice. I don't think that Perez expected for Kobe to come through the wall like that with the portal and have the shotgun unstable vortex waiting on him. And that was the fatal mistake. He ends up falling, but again, not too much going off the back end. As you said, this feels like creating breathing room again, right? This feels like establishing your own timers again and control of your own side of the jungle and just getting it back to normal. Shrimp Gang is not using this as a way to leverage into the enemy jungle just yet.
No, that was the start of the game, is what that felt like to me from Shrimp Gang. Them preventing that initial red buff invade was actually probably one of the bigger plays that this match might see throughout the course, because if Benedict's Cavalry had been successful in acquiring that buff timer, I think we see a lot more action from this duo mid lane. Instead, we've kind of seen a shift from everywhere. mattkoiz, though, trying to help his hunters see if they can confirm a kill onto the Medusa, but Mystic Salmon all too prepared to just disengage. Yeah,
Salmon already very good at swimming upstream, and that's exactly what he did to get away from the aggression coming out from TheWeeznd and mattkoiz. A little bit of fish knowledge in there, hopefully. As now this could be trouble for ShaolinSSiNS on the right-hand side, as he's got Jumpah breathing down his neck. Nickwood right there with him. Even XCovi has rotated over to the solo side, but at this point, the Achilles is out of danger.
You think salmon's his favorite type of fish?
You know, I'd be okay with some cod. I don't know. Maybe it is.
What about Houseplant 72?
You think he's a big fan of plants?
He might be a big fan of houseplants.
I doubt it.
But the real question is, are they real houseplants or like the fake plastic ones that, you know, your mom would get because she knew you would forget to water her plants anytime she wasn't available to do it herself?
Those are kind of OP. For my mom, I bought her one of those bulbs that like just puts out a little bit of water at a time so it stays watered over time, because I would forget to water them. And they're forgetting how much damage Argus can do as he drops in into the team fight, and suddenly Jumpah is way too low. That's a kill for Sternhawk, and Jumpah, we hardly knew ye.
He couldn't even run away from it.
No,
even through a Gep shield. There was just nothing more that mattkoiz could have possibly done in that situation to try and save the life of his jungler. Jumpah, I believe, just getting crowd control too often to use the Powwow even as a method of escape.
There was really no way out for him, as Soul Gem is now complete for Sternhawk. Feels like an old school build as mattkoiz has been taunted in. How about a Typhoon as well? Bad weather coming your way, nowhere to go, and Sternhawk gets yet another 4-1. And all of a sudden, just as quickly as Daniel Perez got here, now he's in trouble. Kobe, nowhere to go. The Hera damage is way too much. Now TheWeeznd in trouble. He was polymorphed. Aegis keeps him alive, but Death Gaze should be enough with an auto to follow up.
It just goes from bad to worse right now for Shrimp Gang. Nickwood trying to make something happen, but he is just being ping-ponged in every which direction. Didn't even really get a chance to react here as Jumpah now looking to come back in, but it's just a dominoes effect. That's what it's looking like for Shrimp Gang. They are initiating one by one instead of all together because the picks have already taken place. The reset needed to happen. Instead, Shrimp Gang on an assembly line here to try and feed Benedict's Cavalry as quickly as possible.
A conveyor belt of doom is what it looked like there for Shrimp Gang, huh? As they rolled slowly to their fate. That's going to be the Gold Fury now for Benedict's Cavalry on top of a deicide. As scary as Medusa is, not quite a Death Gaze, more of a Petrify either way. It ends up favoring Cavalry, and I think that fight is almost entirely on the back of really strong play from Sternhawk, and with a little bit from Houseplant too, helping to set up. But right now, this Hera is untouchable.
Yeah, but if you think about it, Jumpah died twice in one team fight. That alone is problematic, in my mind at least, because when I'm watching this, and if I'm Jumpah, I get it. You get picked off, and that sucks, and there's nothing you can really do here. But your team has to fall back after that. Koiz ends up getting picked off as trying to find room for Kobe, because Kobe did hit a pretty sick through space and time. I'll give him that much. The through space and time and the unstable vortex follow-up was beautiful, but there was nothing more after the fact, and when Kobe missed that portal on the wall and instead portaled the ground, he essentially alley-ooped himself for the polymorph from Sternhawk into his own demise.
We're going to keep looking for Kobe to take those shots, though, after an unfortunate fight for Shrimp Gang, as he now has the Chronos Pendant, and as much cooldown as you could possibly ask for. Some might say even more cooldown than what you could ask for with this build that he's gone so far. But the point is, Kovi will be using a lot of abilities. His Houseplant finds the taunt onto mattkoiz. Argus is right there for the follow-up. And even this tanky Geb might be in some troubles. The Royal Assault is right there. Look at Argus hunting him down, chasing him. They're going to turn towards Kovi, who gets pulled away from the portal. That's Daniel Perez who finds the kill. Jumpah goes in the backside with TheWeeznd there to follow up. That's good damage coming out, and Jumpah makes it up onto the Palau, so we should be safe. Maybe a chance for Shrimp Gang to turn it.
But the Hera shield just a little bit too strong. SternHawk now using that movement speed to get out of there. But more importantly, Finch, I just can't help but notice, it feels like I'm watching consistently from Shrimp Gang these engagements that are 1 or 2 versus the entirety of Benedict's Cavalry. And you just have to wonder, why not wait for the full grouping? You have a Janus.
Right.
Your team should be the first team to respond there anyway, and yet Shrimp Gang still seem to be struggling to match the numbers from Benedict's.
I wonder if the plan was to collapse onto Houseplant as well, because, not Houseplant rather, but mattkoiz. He was the initial target of that, but,
yes.
but the Sunder wasn't used, right? That's why you have that picked up, I would think. And it's a fully upgraded. Houseplant has fully committed into this.
Well, I'm honestly surprised that that engagement didn't go a little bit better for Shrimp Gang, because 3 ultimates were expended.
A lot was used,
for mattkoiz on the Geb, and he still rolled out of there. They were unable to interrupt or cancel out that rollout, and as a result, he's, of course, safe and sound. But Benedict's Cavalry, I think, should have been counter-initiated, except it was only Kovi that's come soaring through the portal, again, into his own death.
Yeah, Jumpah comes through a lot later and actually is able to find at least one pick, or at least set up for one, which I was very impressed by. It's one of those things Jumpah can do very well, which is recognize opportunity even in a bad situation, and I think we saw that on display, so at least to keep it somewhat even. But this red buff spawn has been a point of contention, and will it be here again? There's 4 members of Shrimp Gang nearby, though. This will not be an easy steal if Benedict's Cavalry wants to commit. They go in, look for the taunt. Jumpah is the one that's locked down. Petrify and Argus all there, and really nothing that one lone Dodgy can do.
You can have your red buff. We'll take the life of your jungler. Winside going to pull into mattkoiz, still polymorph. Portal has already been taken by Kovi, and it's not even going to get him out into safety just yet. T2 Tower will be able to keep him alive for the moment, but the same cannot be said for the T1 Tower, as it does end up falling to Benedict's.
And they'll head right over towards the Pyromancer. This is something they should be able to force and see if maybe Shrimp Gang overstep in an attempt to defend the objective. But they won't even have time. It's been burned as quickly as it started. And now they'll move towards the Tier 1 over on the solo side as well. Still too early to consider a gutsy Fire Giant, so they'll take the Tier 1.
Finch, if it felt rough before for Shrimp Gang, I just think it's about to get a hell of a lot worse here, because looking at the draft alone from Benedict's, the mid-game stride is what you really have to fear from this composition.
Absolutely.
And they are already there and thriving from it. SternHawk, Mystic Salmon, and Daniel Perez are all just dealing so much damage that it's difficult for even a Geb shield to keep any single target alive from Shrimp Gang, much less when you factor in how much AoE spread that a Hera, Susano, and Medusa can provide.
It is a lot of damage they can do, or like you said, over a big area. 5-0-2 right now for Mystic Salmon, 4-1-6 for SternHawk. These carries are not only doing a lot of damage, but they're not under very much pressure either at this point in the game. At least it doesn't feel that way, holding onto their relics oftentimes and just dropping their damage in for free. And I think that largely comes off of good initiations. Perez has done a good job, as has Houseplant, setting up. That's why we saw Jumpah removed from existence in that last fight. And now the Oni Fury being looked at, perhaps an opportunity to push with this next minion wave buffed.
Well, something that I do find to be a little bit awkward here from Shrimp Gang is that they've got the Daji, and that's fantastic. I totally understand that, because you want a god like Daji that can pull characters who don't have CC immunity on their ultimates. Susano and Hera clearly going to be the big targets, I think, for Jumpah. But you want the follow-up as well off of that Pavla. I mean, you're pulling in targets to one centrally focused point, and yet Unstable Vortex is the follow-up that you're going with, and that...
Curious. Especially like full cooldown and not even like a hard commit to damage. Yeah.
And that's just what makes it so awkward for me, because Kovi's damage output, while it can be strong in certain situations,
yes,
more often than not, I think is going to serve as a little bit of a detriment towards Shrimp Gang in terms of follow-up potential off of the Palau.
it does feel like this composition might have a little bit of a harder time spreading the damage out. We have seen Weeznd hit a couple of good abilities that have hit multiple enemies in a fight. You know, we've seen the bees kind of go through the fight, hit 3 or 4 people. There's some potential there, like you said, but sort of as the point you were getting to, it's not as consistent. It doesn't feel like as easily applicable as some of what Benedict's Cavalry can do in a team fight. Shrimp Gang have to be almost perfect in their team fights to make up for the gap just in what their gods can do.
The high execution kind of composition, and the rewards can be great, but for Benedict's, I mean, they've got so many different opportunities, I feel, where they can afford to mess up and yet still have moments that they can counteract their mess-ups with pure damage, which only services as a problem for Shrimp Gang, and it's a problem that is very much noticeable in this first game between the two.
Defender of Olympus being considered but not actually dropped. For me, the big problem is Sternhawk up at the top of the player damage with 12,000 and only 1 death in 23 minutes. But who can really get to it? You said Jumpah because there's no CC immunity there, but so far, Sternhawk's played so safely that there hasn't even been an opportunity for Jumpah to do that.
Just look at how split the map is right now. 3 members from Benedict's are pressuring out a T2 tower possibly because Gold Fury is down, so Benedict's don't really have anything to lose from pressuring duo lane a little bit heavier, because even if they wipe, worst case scenario, I still don't think that Shrimp Gang would have the damage to bring down the Fire Giant in a timely enough manner to effectively punish Benedict's.
Slightly off the mark, and now Benedict's considering a different option. Like you said, they were thinking about the tier 2 and left, but they end up giving up on that, even though it wouldn't have been too risky. Instead, they're going to come near the Fire Giant, and we'll see how heavily they commit to this. They could just as easily try and bait in Shrimp Gang without hard committing, but it looks like they absolutely are going to go ahead and get this started up. So Shrimp Gang now have to quickly get in position to set up for defense on the objective without over-committing a difficult task.
The way that Benedict is toggling right here, they just want Shrimp Gang to initiate onto them. Houseplant already off the objective, looking to pull in mattkoiz. Eagles rally, though, going to buy him some time. Argus has been released, and so was the Petrify.
Jumpah's already very low, but goes up onto the Pal to get out of trouble. There's the Frenzy Niquid has been holding on to all game, but the only target in range is ShaolinSSiNS. That did not hit home the way they wanted, and now Perez can come through in the backside with a pull into the Typhoon onto 3 members, locked him down in the stun, and there's Sternhawk to find the kill. mattkoiz, no way out. ShaolinSSiNS gets another 2 picks, and Benedict's Cavalry can calmly walk to the FG.
And that's all that Benedict's were after in the end. Just 1 or 2 picks, force Shrimp Gang to stay away from the objective and take that Fire Giant for free. Fire Giant can be so problematic to confirm as is. The last thing you want to have to worry about is another team pressuring you while you're trying to confirm it. And still not out of danger yet. Houseplant 72 will watch from afar, but his team should hopefully be able to confirm this one. Daniel Perez, though, might end up falling victim here. Will just barely manage to stay alive in the end. If anybody from Shrimp Gang had been aware, I actually don't see Benedict getting this Fire Giant so freely, but
yeah,
those 2 picks coming back in big ways for Benedict.
That was curious. It felt almost like they were halting their DPS on the Fire Giant for some reason and holding it, but in the end they grab it. All 5 members now have the objective as well. And I couldn't quite see, did they get it right before we turned over to 25, or was it the enhanced that ended up coming their way? Either way, they should be able to make a power play off it. There's quite a few T2 towers for them to go grab and get some gold. And so far, Shrimp Gang don't have an answer. I mean, Taco, how'd that fight go so wrong for them? Because Jumpah takes so much damage at the beginning, but gets out of damage going up onto the Palau.
Yeah, so remember that thing I mentioned about AMC being kind of hard to keep alive because he is very low mobility, and that's why in dual lane, Runeforged and Hammer meta has definitely helped him out, but hasn't saved him entirely. I think that was probably just a primary example of it. So Susano finds an opening into the back line around the back Harpies near blue buff, and he just tosses out the Typhoon onto the TheWeeznd. He had 3 different targets. Yes, yes, high mobility versus low mobility. And Susano wins that every single time. The Typhoon was enough. It completely forced out the Purification Beads from TheWeeznd, which he'd already used the Aegis after seeing Susano on top of him. And Daniel Perez just committed. The call, you could see everybody from Benedict immediately shift to where the Susano was at. And then mattkoiz, of course, trying to do what any good support would try to do, save his Hunter. Except the Hunter is already dead.
Not really anything they could do.
For mattkoiz, unfortunately, I don't think he recognized how many bodies from Benedict were actually surrounding him in that moment, so both of them just wind up getting picked off in the end.
Let's see how hard Shrimp Gang commit to this tier 2 tower defense, because they're down about 12 or 13,000 gold. They're going to jump right in with the Eagles rally. Petrify does land on the mattkoiz, and that takes him out of the fight right away. He's an execute threshold, but ShaolinSSiNS can't find it. Jumpah's up onto the Palau, but he also can't find anyone to pull in. He actually does get 2. Defender of Olympus is there, and the through space and time follow-up is big, but it's still not enough for them to close this fight out.
But look at xCovi. xCovi is out here in no man's land. I thought he was maybe going to look to play aggressive from the backside, but
just barely.
No one realizing where this Janus was at until it was just a little bit too late. But an excellent defense. I'm not going to lie. Shrimp Gang definitely holding their own underneath the T2 tower, and when Benedict's Cavalry have this much of a lead, it is incredibly impressive that they're still holding on to that one.
I like that we saw it, though. Too often, I think teams give up the tier 2 towers for free, and that's a lot of the time where the back-breaking lead can come from, that extra 4,500 gold just being handed over to the other team. And Shrimp Gang make a good defense. It starts with Nikwid with a good Eagles rally, but Jumpah pulling into the xCovi through space and time, that's what really turned that fight around, at least from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, Perez was not expecting that damage from the Janus. He was left with a sliver of HP, and he should be thankful it was even that much, because a little bit more, a little bit less cooldown, and more power from xCovi, and they have it.
He's got a lot of cooldown.
If he had, I think, any other damage item outside of the Chronos Pendant, because he already had like practically max cooldowns.
He was at 30% and then got Chronos Pendant.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. That's a lot of cooldown.
Well,
you're doing good.
To be fair to xCovi, too, I definitely understand why you want to prioritize cooldowns on Janus.
Yeah, it makes sense. And he's been moving around a lot.
Substitute the Spear of Deso with the Chronos Pendant instead.
Just go right into Chronos Pendant right away instead of the Spear of Desolation. Yeah. That might have worked out a little bit better for him, as now Benedict's Cavalry are considering the tier 2 tower on the right-hand side, and they've already gotten really good damage in onto mattkoiz, who's forced to fall back. That's the shield on cooldown as well, so there's nothing to help out Nikwid, who's been taunted in, and Argus is right there waiting for him. And now they got the big fella pushing through the tier 2. That should be an easy structure claim, and in fact, Perez looping around, and now he'll have a chance to punish the Rock. Cataclysm comes through, but nowhere near enough to keep him alive up against Sternhawk.
xCovi, though, with a wonderful through space and time, just going to eliminate that Susano right off the map and get Jumpah out of danger. Could not have asked for a better play in the moment, but it still might not be enough to prevent Benedict from sieging this right side Phoenix.
Remember, they no longer have the Fire Giant at this point. It's just their lead that they're working with, as they are able to get some very good damage onto xCovi, who goes to his own portal, but Argus is still there swinging away. Meanwhile, the Phoenix well below half health and certainly will fall. Benedict's Cavalry grabbed the first Firebird of the game, and now the base opened up a bit in their favor. They can move into the Titan if they want to later on. But remember, a tier 2 tower still to worry about in left, and 2 Phoenixes.
For a moment, I really thought there was going to be a little bit more potential there for Shrimp Gang to work with, because xCovi's placement on that through space and time could not have been a better saving grace for Jumpah. It's just TheWeeznd can't afford to go through that same portal. If he does, he's an AMC. His low mobility is just going to leave him there like a sitting duck. So, with that being said, Shrimp Gang, while they've got moments of burst, I feel like their lack of follow-up is really coming back to haunt them this game.
And what's really hurting is that you're right that the TheWeeznd is low mobility and is obviously going to be the target often. But that's why you have this Geb, right? You have the Shockwave, the Cataclysm, the Shield, all these tools to help him in a team fight survive. But mattkoiz has been punished so early in these fights, he doesn't have any cooldowns left to help out TheWeeznd. Or in the case of the last fight, Nikwid, who was isolated in front of the tier 2.
Also, I love that from Benedict. They see mattkoiz get forced out of his Geb shield, and the second that Athena taunt becomes available again, Houseplant's looking for the next target without beads. Nikwid, every single time, blown up before he even has a chance to react.
They know there's no way out for him in that situation, with only the Frenzy and the Teleport as his relics and no Geb there to defend him. But the Fire Giant's back up, and that's why Benedict's Cavalry are pushing forward and owning space.
And honestly, if I'm Benedict, I'm probably going to choose to continue to focus Nikwid, because Nikwid by far has some of the biggest turnaround potential for his team in the fights because of that upgraded Frenzy.
And he's not so tanky that you can't blow him up at this point, right? He's got the Berserkers, the Void Shield, the Magi's. These are some somewhat in-between items to try and get you towards tankiness, but he's not all in as much as some of these other characters as the Gold Fury goes down. So he can, to some degree, be blown up in these fights.
if he's not careful, like what we just saw, he tried to be the frontlining member, and well, we're not at 11 to 13 minutes into a game any longer.
Right, exactly.
Bellona can't really afford to just eat all of that shred, especially not when the enemy team Hunter, Mystic Salmon, great itemization choices on this Medusa. He got ahead early on. I do not blame this man in the slightest for choosing to go Bloodforge after a Crusher. He had money to spend.
He absolutely did. Yeah, that extra power was helping him swing all game long. I've been singing the graces of Sternhawk so far, but Mystic Salmon has also been playing very well, only a little bit behind his counterpart in terms of damage. Now, Nikwid might be a bit isolated. He is the furthest forward. He has some backup from Jumpah, and not too far is TheWeeznd, as Argus is already swinging. But they're going to need a little bit more. A two-man stun comes out from Nikwid. That finds Sternhawk on the backside, but he had no one else there to help out. Defender of Olympus was there too, but it's Mystic Salmon who falls early on, an important shutdown.
Very big pick here for Shrimp Gang, and now Sternhawk left all alone on the backside. Kobe still trying to track him down, but he's going to get found by Jumpah. Blink immediately into the claw here. And Benedict's Cavalry, they're just being disassembled.
Yeah, this is a huge fight. Jumpah finds himself a triple kill, and absolutely the door is open for them to get a little bit more. Jumpah gets taunted in, and they're going to try and make Houseplant the target. The dash is there, and he's able to get away. So probably won't be able to find the full-on quadra. It's delayed at this point, but certainly 4 in a row for Jumpah. Only ShaolinSSinS who can fall back to the tower, and all of a sudden, Taco, a nightmare fight for Benedict's Cavalry.
Benedict's got baited by the Kobe split push on the Janus, and we've seen so many teams do this in the past, but Kobe was split pushing a T1 tower in mid. That baits the Susano from Benedict's to rotate over, and with the separation cause, Shrimp Gang are able to prosper in the team fight. They're taking down the mid-side Phoenix.
No.
I don't think that they are healthy enough, though, to look for the end just yet, especially not with their own Titan having taken half of its health in a beating from those fire minions.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, they need to get back as soon as they can, and it's going to be Kobe who does it to make sure the tier 2 tower on right does not get pushed down. Those were fire minions, so they certainly would have been strong enough to push in and claim the life of that Phoenix on their own. But that's a huge fight for Shrimp Gang, and that's one thing that I think perhaps we were underselling a little bit. This Shrimp Gang roster are by no means rookies. I mean, this is a stacked squad in terms of experience and talent. And so even if they're down for 30 minutes, they'll find an opportunity to claw their way back into a game.
Benedict started treating that enhanced Fire Giant pool almost as if it were a ranked game. Like, they didn't expect Shrimp Gang to try and contest them or even show any presence whatsoever, because
they might get collapsed
Benedict's
on
have been winning everything else.
Yeah, this is trouble for Jumpah. He goes up into the sky, clearly an XQ threshold, and just uses the Palau as a way back out for him to disengage on the back end of the fight. So Jumpah will have to back for now and won't have the ultimate in this next team fight. But Taco, you're right. In that last fight, Benedict's Cavalry play a little bit too sloppily around the FG.
They were just too patient, I think, with expecting that Shrimp Gang, since we've been beating them down so many times before, just like Nikwid's trying to beat down Mystic Salmon right now, but he will take out about 60% of his health in the process. Mystic Salmon's going to have to back very soon here, or else Shrimp Gang could start to get positioning pressure over the Fire Giant.
I think that Shrimp Gang could. Right now, it's just ShaolinSSinS who's pushed forward. Keep your eye, though, on Sternhawk. He's done a great job finding Arguses over the wall from the back end of fights to drop in big damage and find the knockup. He's got to make sure he's being careful here as a ward comes through, so they spot him. And now mattkoiz has to go in the full retreat. ShaolinSSinS, though, unafraid to push forward, take some poke, and he'll be okay, as it's only Kovi who's not around, but he could always, through space and time, his way in.
But this is where I want to see Benedict's fighting, and instead they're sending Daniel Perez to go and meet this Janus, but this is a bait.
Dangerous, yeah.
Jumpah is waiting. This is a classic pincer maneuver from experienced Smite players.
They're absolutely going to be able to find Perez here, but Perez blows him up, and Defender of Olympus means that all of a sudden it's no longer a 2v1, it's a 1v2, and their favorite, Kovi, has been left alone. But what will the rest of his team do around the FG? It looks like they wanted the TheWeeznd. ShaolinSSinS is strong enough to fight 1v2, but maybe not 1v3 as mattkoiz joins the fray. But a big play from Perez on the left-hand side to blow up Jumpah.
Still, Kovi is just wasting so much time for Benedict's Cavalry, and it's allowing Shrimp Gang to farm up in the meanwhile. These carries that were 2 to 3 levels behind their opposition, everybody's starting to hit level 20 now, including mattkoiz. He is on the verge of hitting 20 on the Geb. And so I think that Shrimp Gang have indirectly bought themselves a lot of time by just tricking Benedict's Cavalry into believing it's worthwhile to meet a Janus head-on during his split push. That is the moment where you need to be fighting, because sure, be on the lookout for that through space and time. It's guaranteed to come, but there's also the chance that xCovi decides not to rotate, depending on how badly or poorly that fight goes for Shrimp Gang.
He might just keep going.
And you might lose a T2 tower, but I would rather have the team fight when I'm nearly 40 minutes deep into a match.
And look what this Athena has forced onto the side of Shrimp Gang. There's 5 Magi cloaks there. 1 on Weeznd, xCovi, Jumpah, and Nikwid. They don't have a choice, really, but to try and have that tool there, even with a Geb on their team, it's just too much from these taunts and from the Susano. I mean, it's a ton they have to worry about.
It's a Wind Siphon and a taunt, or it's a Typhoon, or even Shaolin has a stun on the Achilles. mattkoiz, though, looking to pull beads early on, but instead will just get the Petrify out of Mystic Salmon. Still, Geb Cataclysm, a big ult to sacrifice for the possibility of somebody's beads.
It is, but unless Shrimp Gang force a fight on the back end, they might not get punished for it. Certainly the shorter cooldown to expend. As it looks like Shrimp Gang will farm up, but they're not ready to force the Fire Giant. In fact, they're going to grab this tier 1, which is doing a lot of work, still being up at 37 minutes into the game, isn't it? This tier 1 tower. Wait, what?
They're just rushing the mid lane
Oh,
Phoenix.
I don't think they recognize it. They're on the map, clearly revealed. So I think that Benedict's Cavalry knew exactly where they were. And yeah, they couldn't quite do it, but I like they put some of the fear of God into them, right? They came down and threatened this mid Phoenix.
The big thing is Shrimp Gang had only just started to get positioning pressure over the Fire Giant. So Benedict rushes down the mid lane, forces out the team back because Shrimp Gang aren't sure as to whether or not Benedicts are going to full commit there. And, well, now Benedict's Cavalry, again, have pressure over the Fire Giant.
Nikwid frontlining for him. He's got the Spirit Robes. That is a good amount of tankiness he'll get when hit by the CC, but still can't afford to eat a bunch of Viper shots for free. Mystic Salmon, even though he had to use the ultimate last time, is certainly still swinging. In fact, Benedict's Cavalry has baited long enough that ultimate will be back up before too long. It's taunt into Argus onto Nikwid this time. He's slowed down, stuck inside the honey, but goes right back in with the Eagles rally. That stuns 2, 3 space and time. Off the mark, though, from xCovi. He'll have to retreat. Maybe Jumpah can find, though, some tasty targets. He can't find anything and gets off the powwow. This is a fight that's still in favor of Benedict's Cavalry. No ultimates available for Shrimp Gang at all.
3 still on the board here. Houseplant could choose to back at any moment and come back in with the Defender of Olympus, but Daniel Perez is going to be the first to head on back to base, and understandably so. Sitting at around 40% health is never a good look for a Susano. But more importantly, with all of the ultimates having been forced from Shrimp Gang, now Benedict's Cavalry feels a little bit more confident, I think, to try and look for this enhanced Fire Giant. I think a big thing that kept them locked away from that was they didn't want to deal with the damage output from Shrimp Gang. Now that we are 40 minutes deep into this match, these teams ignore the score lines at this point. Everybody's level 20, everybody's fully slotted.
Yes.
Only real difference maker going to be here, those players working on their 6th item to sell the boots maybe for that speed elixir.
That's the Magi's cloak down from mattkoiz and from TheWeeznd. And remember, a lot of ultimates are down, but that's only if Benedict's Cavalry force the issue quickly. Those diamonds are about to fill back up. Nikwid and xCovi both have theirs, so this window for Benedict's Cavalry getting shorter and shorter as mattkoiz drops the shockwave. Nikwid with the bludgeon. It's not enough to put in enough damage, and Benedict's Cavalry will fall back. I think they had an opportunity that they didn't quite seize there, Taco.
I think Benedict's Cavalry, that hesitation comes from lack of experience.
Maybe so,
If we see Shrimp Gang in that same position, I think we 100% see them attempting to at least pull the enhanced Fire Giant, maybe look to bait their opposition in even more so to look for the guaranteed picks now that those ultimates have all been expended. But instead, Benedict's Cavalry, since they waited so long to jump the gun, I mean, they never pulled the trigger, period. So now, the Shrimp Gang, everything's back to being even again.
We do have another pause and get everything sorted out for our players. I wonder, Taco, if why they didn't try and force that issue is because ShaolinSSinS took a lot of poke on the front end of that Fire Giant. Some of his team did fall back to base and want to spend a little bit of gold, get healed up, but SSINS took almost half his health bar in poke. Maybe that's why they felt like they had to wait, as it's Shrimp Gang who are the ones pushing forward now.
ShaolinSSinS still looking to take even more out of his health bar, but it's going to be Nikwid that actually gets pulled in first of all, and Argus just doesn't even leave him any room to escape. had that Eagles rally available, but the Wind Siphon was so well timed out of Daniel Perez that Nickwood never got a chance to get it off.
And Kovi's still split pushing. This might be too much. Janus doesn't have a ton of potential to take these by himself, and now he's getting followed, yeah, by the Susano. That's exactly how that one was going to go. I'm not too sure about that one there, Taco, as they lose 2 members, and now Benedict's Cavalry have all the pressure with which to push.
Perez has been looking for that one since, I think, the 28-minute mark.
Yeah.
He's been trying to find Kovi when he's broken off on his own accord. Except MysticSalmon now could be in trouble here. mattkoiz will get credit. Huge pick as well from mattkoiz on the Geb, but he's not a danger just yet. Might get taunted in here from the Athena. Is in that execute range, but Shaolin with the miss onto the Geb.
Not able to find it. That means mattkoiz continues to live. Up into the Palau goes Jumpah, but he's got no one to pull in just yet. No chains have found their home. He'll jump back down. Will at least pull back in Houseplant, but somehow Benedict's Cavalry in a 5v3 have been completely stalled.
I cannot believe. If Shaolin had connected there, I think we see this mid-Phoenix go down. I think we see that Fire Giant go down, possibly even the end of the game.
Yeah.
If Shaolin is able to connect there. But mattkoiz will live to see yet another day. And I can't help but fall back to what we were originally just talking about. We see a fantastic pick onto Nickwood inside of Benedict's blue buff. And 0 attempts still onto sieging that enhanced Fire Giant.
They really got nothing off the back of that, did they? They didn't get the Fire Giant. They did not get the Phoenix. They got the picks onto Kovi and Nickwood, and that's about it. So instead, we'll reset yet again. And now the positional advantage, the ultimate cooldown advantage, that's all been washed away. Even the relic advantage might favor Shrimp Gang a little bit. They don't have a ton for Jumpah, whose blink is about to come back up. But look at Sternhawk. No beads, no Aegis for at least another minute. He might be a great target if Shrimp Gang recognize how low he is.
Houseplant gonna face plant right into Jumpah with that taunt.
I like that.
Or with the dash, and that leaves him nowhere else to go. TheWeeznd gonna end up picking up a huge kill.
There
Execute, though, will finally find its calling here onto mattkoiz. Jumpah's still on the run, but Sternhawk gonna be yet another body count.
Of course it was. There were no relics available to him. ShaolinSSinS going to fall as well as Nickwood finds that one. It's just Daniel Perez and MysticSalmon that are left alive. Are they going to be enough to try and slow down this squad from Shrimp Gang, as they still have 3 members pushing up? And remember, if a Muzen Cobb is good in anything, it's planting down those hives and being a turret. He can shred through these objectives, no problem.
4 versus 2, though, Finch, in quite a while. 30 seconds is the soonest that Houseplant will make his way back onto the playing field. And I think that that might just be 30 seconds too long for this mid-Phoenix that's already been sieged one time before. Jumpah going straight up into the face of MysticSalmon and just gets blown up in an instant. Yeah,
it's just not tanky enough. He gets blown up without any kind of way to fight back. They do at the very least get the Phoenix, so I'm sure Jumpah's okay with trading his life for that objective, but if he does live, perhaps they could even find a little bit more on the back end. Now they'll consider the Fire Giant. Again, WeezNd is still here, so they have some damage. But no, Kovi's backing, and it looks like Shrimp Gang are done looking for objectives for now. They'll settle for the mid-Phoenix, spend a little bit of that gold, because now we're at the point of the game where players might even be starting to consider the Elixir of Speed. Again, about 1,500 gold. You pick one of those up, get the same movement speed as Boots, and you can get a 6th item.
Seeing it already from MysticSalmon. Sold out his boots, I believe, for the Executioner.
I think so, yeah. He definitely had Crusher, Bloodforge, Titan's Bane, Kinsize already, I think so. I think it must have been the Executioner at this point. Not the only one. It looks like Perez also gotten rid of the boots too. Same for Sternhawk, so a lot of people choosing to rock this Elixir.
I think I would have liked to have seen an Odysseus bow on either one of these hunters, for sure.
Yeah.
And not only that, but TheWeeznd. I feel like a little bit of a missed opportunity here for the Runeforge.
That's right. That's part of what's made the Muzen Cobb so strong, right, is that he can build the Runeforge so efficiently, and it gives him a little bit of extra survivability. To be fair, he's only fallen twice without it, and he's still doing relevant damage top on his team, so at this point, WeezNd probably is okay with it as we cross the 45-minute threshold here, Taco, with neither one of these teams look ready to break. It is a small advantage, though, to Shrimp Gang. Remember, they've got fire minions in the mid lane. So if they're just standing around near this Fire Giant buff, it favors Shrimp Gang.
Well, that's huge for Shrimp Gang, actually. As long as that mid-Phoenix is down, Benedict's Cavalry are constantly going to be pinned between the decision of saving the Fire Giant or taking the team fight. And if they take the team fight, they cannot lose more than 2 members. If they lose more than 2 members, even if they lose 2 members, there's still a possibility for Shrimp Gang to end.
It'll be a difficult defense up against Fire Minions and down a couple of members if they lose 2 members. I think what you're kind of getting at there is Benedict's Cavalry are still nearby, but not really moving up into the pit itself. It looks like at this point, Shrimp Gang are not really in a hurry to force the issue. As I mentioned earlier, as long as they're kind of keeping them stalled here, it's still an advantage, but they're not really stalled. Sternhawk was able to go push up the waves. He's got the rest of the team there. It's not really costing Benedict's Cavalry anything.
Both of these teams are getting clear advantages to us, but from the player perspective, it can be a little bit more difficult to recognize those sort of leads. And Jumpah right now trying to make a play happen in the mid lane, will pull in Houseplant, but Mystic Salmon will not go down anywhere near as easily. Still has that Petrify CC immunity on the Powwow. Xcovi, though, will connect with a nice unstable Vortex, but through space and time, used for what? Powwow used for what? Both of these teams, they're finding structures and they're finding picks, but they're not doing anything with them afterwards.
Yeah, they haven't been able to quite close them out. I see the idea there from Xcovi, and it's not the first time he's gone for it this game, where he tries to use through space and time towards the back of a team fight on the back line to try and get in some big damage. That time only really hitting with Unstable Vortex onto Salmon and not finding much else. TheWeeznd has his Mad Guy's Cloak popped by ShaolinSSiNS, who's been unafraid to play the front line so far and really get in there and try and bully and even shrug off some of the significant damage from Shrimp Gang. Another bubble popped.
I've seen that one so many times before, it just doesn't even faze me anymore, Finch. It's just expected now, really. Nickwood gonna get taunted back in. Meanwhile, Daniel Perez trying to commit to Jumpah in the mid lane. Jumpah, though, not liking this 1v1 action. So he's gonna call over mattkoiz to help out. And the Cataclysm could not have been better timed. Defender of Olympus there to save nobody for Benedict.
Not going to be able to keep them alive. Nickwood, though, despite being low, wants to head right back in, but it's Hera damage he needs to worry about. Xcovi goes to the backside of the team fight, uses the portal to get right back out. Petrify finds nothing, and Xcovi threads the needle with the Unstable Vortex. That takes down Mystic Salmon. TheWeeznd finds Sternhawk as well. It's 3-for-0 in favor of Shrimp Gang. You can push go on this one. A significant advantage for the blue squad.
Houseplant thinking about trying to find some time. They're just looking to waste time, it seems, but Shaolin will not be able to find the Fatal Strike on the Jumpah. It doesn't even have the ultimate available. It's just 5v1. It's not even a fair fight, but who says it has to be fair when it comes to competitive play, Finch?
All right, Taco, I feel good about this one. I feel good. 48.5 minutes in, 5 up against just the Titan. Confidently, I can say the game is over. And Shrimp Gang have done it. Hard to believe that in a long slugfest, the team with more experience is the one to come out on top, huh, Taco?
And for what it's worth, in my honest opinion, Finch, that should have been a Benedict's Cavalry win.
Yeah,
I think that was just a team that lacked experience to understand, and they hesitated too often surrounding that Fire Giant. They had opportunities, I think, to not only pull the Enhanced Fire Giant, but bait Shrimp Gang even further into the pit, and then they could have looked for more picks because they were already working in a 4v5 advantage. But unfortunately, it's just Shrimp Gang. That experience, man, it says a lot.
Gang. Unfortunately, they couldn't quite get it done here in this one on the side of Benedict's Cavalry. But I think you can feel good about the strong performance that they had here, right? They have some things they can build on. Maybe next time when you kick a few doors open, see if you can walk through, don't let the game slip away from them. But how did you all see it on the desk? Let's get it over to the analysts and have them break it down.
Thank you very much, Finch and Taco. A long one there, but it ends up being Shrimp Gang that pull it out just barely. But, Totally, I think a big takeaway here is that Benedict's Cavalry looks really, really good and really should have put that one away a lot earlier.
They should have. They were in control for a majority of that game, but that split push coming out of Xcovi on the Janus just distracted the Benedicts for a little bit too long, and they were kind of waffling around the Fire Giant, putting the game back into Shrimp Gang's hands.
It's really just that experience level, right? That I mean, as we mentioned in the pregame, Shrimp Gang has a world champion on it, someone who came to the Worlds in both Xcovi and Wheezy last year. I mean, these guys have been around for a long, long time, and I think that just extra bit of confidence in these late game scenarios really pushed Shrimp Gang over the edge, and it ends up all ending whenever Jumpah's able to win that 1v1 in the mid lane at the very end.
That missed Typhoon was really bad, unfortunately, from Daniel Perez. But at the end of the day, what's more impressive than a team being able to close out a game is their ability to come back from a deficit. So Shrimp Gang getting tested here leads to maybe some good results in the future weeks. But as a result of this game, they now have a 1-0 lead, and now they can do like a hard reset. Because I think in their minds, they're probably like, oh man, we weren't even supposed to win this game. So now they have a huge boost going into game 2.
Now, on the other side for Shrimp Gang, looking at some of the negatives, I think that TheWeeznd and mattkoiz had some trouble in that duo lane during some of the game. I mean, TheWeeznd was very low in the player damage charts for the majority of the game. If a game goes that long, you would expect your Hunter to kind of jump up. Nickwood as well. A lot of initiations where Nickwood and mattkoiz were overlapping. It'd be Bellona ult as the Geb is blinking in and ulting at the same time, and so you're not really getting relics. You're using 2 ultimates, and they're immuning them with 1 set of purification beads, and that usually isn't a good sign.
Yeah, you need to make sure that you communicate that of who's going to stay in the backline to peel and who's going to be the aggressive one. When you have a composition such as Bellona and Geb, normally it's the passive Guardian that's going to be there in the backline. Look for those Geb shields across the board. I think that despite those failed engagements, that Nickwood still played a good Bellona, had control in that laning phase for the most part, and that it worked out towards the later portions for those team fights.
Yeah, I think that if you're blinking in with Geb off the very beginning, then you just kind of back up and just immediately turn towards your backliners and stare at them and wait for them to get jumped on. That usually end up going pretty well, but Shrimp Gang eventually make the adjustments and find the game 1 victory. If you're on Benedict's Cavalry now, are you feeling good that you had a really close game 1, or are you feeling bad that you lost a game where you were in control? Where do you think your headspace
It's a sweet and sour kind of taste more than anything, because you had the game right in your hands and then all of a sudden you let it slip. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think it just depends on how you look at it, half full or half empty kind of glass. So I think if I'm them, I'm looking at a glass half full, go into game 2 with a clear mindset and look for similar picks and bans.